There is a single question that echoes through therapy offices, online forums, and kitchen table conversations between friends. It is a question upon which entire industries are built, thousands of books are written, and gigabytes of podcasts are recorded. What do men actually want? Women discuss this with one another as if they are trying to decipher an ancient, lost language or crack the complex enigma code. It seems the answer must be hidden somewhere deep, locked behind the 7 seals of the complex male psyche. But here is the irony. There is no mystery. What a man needs is remarkably simple. So simple, in fact, that when men decide to say it out loud, their words are often met with skepticism or dismissal. That can't be it. That's too primitive. Many think. You just don't want to talk about your real deep feelings. There must be something else. Today, we are going to dive into this topic without any illusions. We are going to talk about what is truly necessary for a man to feel happy in a relationship, why these needs are so straightforward, and why, despite their simplicity, a vast number of women either cannot or refuse to meet them. This isn't an attempt to assign blame, it is an attempt to bring clarity, because we are living in an era of an epidemic of unhappy husbands. And we aren't talking about the ones who scream loudly, smash dishes, or make scenes. We are talking about a quiet, invisible unhappiness. About men who come home, mechanically perform their functions, and feel absolutely nothing. These men learned long ago to keep their disappointment to themselves. Early in the relationship, they might have tried to speak up. They tried to explain what they needed, but in response, they heard that their requests were ridiculous, selfish, or not important enough. So, they went silent. They continue to provide, to be present, to do what is expected of them, but inside, they feel like roommates in their own marriages. They are tolerated, but not desired. They are useful, like a household appliance, but not valued as individuals. They are present physically, but no one sees them. If you ask their wives, many would say everything is fine. Well, maybe not perfect, but the family is solid, they would say. They would point to the house, the stability, the fact that the husband doesn't cause problems. They might even sincerely believe he is content, and they would be fatally mistaken. But they will never find out, because he stopped sending distress signals years ago. This is a quiet erosion, not an explosion, not a drama, but a slow washing away of the life from a person inside a relationship that looks entirely presentable from the outside. He still plays his role, but the man who once hurried home from work now just feels fatigue as he parks the car. The one who sought intimacy now just waits for rejection. The one who shared his thoughts now keeps them stored in the cloud of his own mind, password protected. The scariest part is that for all participants, this becomes the norm, as if this is just what a maturing marriage looks like, as if quiet disappointment is the inevitable tax on stability. Let's get specific. What does a man actually need to feel alive and fulfilled next to a woman? The list is short, but every point on it is critically important. First, and perhaps most importantly, peace. A man wants to return not to a turbulent zone, but to a harbor. The external world is full of stress, competition, tasks that must be solved, and pressure that must be withstood. The home should not be yet another source of tension that needs to be managed. In a world where things are constantly demanded of him, home should be the only place where he can simply exist without needing to justify his presence. Home is a place where one can take off the armor, not a place where one needs to put on a helmet. Second, respect. Not submission, not flattery, but respect. An acknowledgement that his actions carry weight. An understanding that his efforts are seen and important. This quiet confidence that he will handle things gives him wings much more than any attempt to guide him to the true path through criticism. It is the feeling that his partner truly holds a high opinion of him, rather than looking at him like an unreasonable child who needs constant supervision, or like a problem that needs to be constantly fixed. Third, appreciation. When a man works, provides, and solves problems. He wants to feel that this isn't vanishing into the void. He doesn't need a parade in his honor every day. A sincere thank you is capable of turning a heavy routine into a meaningful mission, filling even the most banal duties with significance. He needs simple, human confirmation that his contribution matters, that he is not taken for granted, like a function built into the marriage options by default. Fourth, physical intimacy. And this isn't just about the act of love itself, though that is certainly important. It is about the feeling of being desired, that you were chosen and continue to be chosen every single day. Without this tactile contact, the emotional bond thins, gradually turning the union of two lovers into a dry business partnership. It is the confidence that his partner still sees him as a man, not just a roommate or the father of her children. It is the touch that says, "I am with you, I need you." Fifth, emotional stability. Men look for partners capable of regulating their own emotions rather than requiring constant external management. Life with a person whose mood is a minefield you have to tiptoe across is exhausting. Predictability of reactions is not boredom at all. It is that very foundation of safety upon which deep trust can be built. It is important for a man to know that a small problem won't turn into a catastrophe of universal scale 5 minutes after he walks through the door. That's it. Peace, respect, appreciation, intimacy, stability. Nothing supernatural. Nothing that would require heroic effort or sacrifice. Notice what is not on this list. Men aren't asking for perfection. They aren't asking to be entertained 24/7. They don't demand that a woman anticipate their every wish like a genie from a lamp. They aren't looking for a servant, a mother, or a personal therapist. They are looking for basic partnership. The same attitude they would offer a friend: respect, support, and a lack of unnecessary complications where there shouldn't be any. The bar is insultingly low, and yet, in relationship after relationship, these basic needs remain unmet. Here lies an interesting paradox. When men describe their needs, they are often not believed. Women's needs in relationships tend to be more detailed and nuanced. Emotional attunement, quality time, a sense of deep understanding, discussing feelings. This requires attention, fine-tuning, and constant work. Therefore, when a man says, "I just need peace and respect," many women look for the catch. That can't be all. He's surely hiding something. Behind this simplicity, there must be a complex emotional schematic. But often, behind the simplicity stands only the truth. Men generally don't need hours of conversation about the nature of their feelings. They don't need an hourly status check on the relationship. They need a calm environment, recognition of their efforts, and warmth. The fact that this seems too simple to be true is part of the problem. When you are looking for complexity, you miss what is lying right on the surface. If men's needs are so simple, why do so many marriages crash and burn in the attempt to meet them? First, there is a prioritization issue. In many unions, the woman's emotional needs take center stage. Her feelings, her anxieties, her perception of the marriage. This is the spotlight in which everything happens. The man's needs are assumed to be secondary, or, worse, it is assumed they are met by default. There is an unspoken belief. If she is happy, then he is happy. He has a home, a family, a woman. What more could he want? His needs become invisible. Second, there is an effort gap. Many men put significant effort into understanding the complex inner world of their partner. They read articles, listen to lectures, try to learn a love language that is foreign to them. They adjust their behavior, even when the requests seem illogical to them. The reverse effort is far less common. Third, there is active undermining. Some women don't just fail to meet their husband's needs, they actively work against them. They bring chaos instead of peace. They criticize instead of appreciating. They use intimacy as currency for blackmail or punishment. They create instability and call it passion or temperament. This doesn't apply to every woman, certainly. but the pattern occurs often enough to become a noticeable social phenomenon. When direct communication fails, indirect tactics take over. It starts small, a suggestion that sounds like a demand, a request that turns into nagging, a disagreement followed by a cold wall of silence. This isn't always a conscious strategy. Sometimes these are habits copied from parents or seen in movies, but if they work, they stick. If withholding intimacy forces the man to yield, withholding becomes a regular tool. If an emotional storm forces him to abandon his opinion, storms become the climate of the relationship. If guilt gets results, guilt becomes the main lever. The man learns a lesson. Peace is possible only through submission. His needs don't matter. What matters is the level of calm in the system, which can only be achieved by appeasing the partner. The relationship turns into managing the wife's moods rather than building a shared future. And many men accept this. They think this is the price of admission to family life. But it isn't the price. It's dysfunction. The irony is that these manipulation tactics always backfire in the long run. Yes, you can get obedience here and now. You can win a local battle, but you lose the war. Every time a man yields not out of agreement but out of exhaustion, a part of his respect for the woman dies. Every time he bends to stop the chaos, he trusts her a little less. A man forced into submission by manipulation doesn't become a devoted husband. He becomes secretive and detached. He is physically there, but emotionally, he has already packed his bags. He realized this space is unsafe for him, and he has gone into deep defense. Let's call things by their names. A significant factor in this dynamic is selfishness. When one person's comfort is always more important than the other's, when one person's happiness is the goal and the other is merely the means to achieve it, that is not partnership. That is service. Some people enter relationships with a consumer mentality. What can this person give me? How do they make me feel? The partner's experience is secondary. This isn't gender specific. Selfish people are everywhere. But in the context of our conversation, this often manifests as a woman who sees her husband as a provider of resources, emotions, and stability, but forgets to see him as a human being with his own vulnerabilities. She expects him to work on understanding her soul, but she doesn't labor to understand him. She waits for sacrifices for the sake of the family, but minimizes her own. This imbalance first births bewilderment, then resentment, and finally cold indifference. And by the moment the man finally switches off, the woman is often genuinely surprised. Didn't she have everything she wanted? Underneath these actions lie deep-seated beliefs. Some live with a scarcity mindset. Love, attention, and care are in short supply. If I give to my partner, I will have less left for myself. Therefore, I will take, hoard, and demand. This turns marriage into a competition. Every decision is a question. Who wins? Every resource, time, money, attention is an object of struggle. Others live in a framework where only their inner world is truly real. The partner is a supporting character in the movie of their life. Intellectually, they understand he has feelings, but they don't feel it viscerally. When you don't perceive the other as an equal in depth of experience, meeting their needs seems like optional charity. The saddest part of this dynamic is the lack of awareness. Many women who make their husbands miserable genuinely don't understand what they are doing. They consider their actions justified, logical, and even caring. Nagging is perceived as an attempt to improve him, criticism as honest feedback, coldness as a natural reaction to being hurt. From inside their reality, they are doing everything right. They don't see the pattern that he sees. They don't feel the cumulative effect of thousands of small rejections. And this gap in perception makes the problem almost unsolvable through conversation. When he says, "I need peace," she hears, "I don't care about your feelings." When he says, "I need respect," she hears, "I want you to be silent and obey." When he says, "I lack recognition," she hears, "Praise me for simply breathing." His words pass through the filter of her interpretations, and are distorted beyond recognition. So, he stops explaining, he stops asking, he goes silent, and she mistakes this silence for agreement and contentment. This gap is one of the cruelest traps. Both can believe they are trying. Both can consider the other the source of the problems, and without an outside perspective, this can last for decades. Until one day he files for divorce, or until she discovers she is living with a complete stranger, and then there will be shock. How could he leave after so many years? She doesn't understand that he left a very long time ago. The divorce is just the paperwork catching up to the already accomplished fact of the relationship's death. Relationships move in a spiral either up or down. In an ascending spiral, generosity breeds generosity. When one sincerely tries for the other, the second feels valued and wants to respond in kind. Gratitude flows both ways. In a descending spiral, selfishness breeds defense. When one takes without giving, the second begins to build walls. Resentments pile up. Each focuses on what they didn't get. The relationship collapses because both switch into self-preservation mode. The key moment: someone must break the vicious cycle. In a descending spiral, waiting for the other to change means guaranteeing a continued fall. Someone must show generosity first, even if they don't receive it in return right now. Someone must start giving, even if their needs aren't covered yet. This seems unfair, but it is strategically necessary if the goal is to save the union. You cannot control your partner, only yourself. The question is only who has the courage to take the first step. The one who starts giving without receiving takes a risk. They might invest and get no answer. They might open up and get hit. But the alternative is the guaranteed death of the relationship from mutual neglect. Let's be brutally concrete. What does meeting these basic male needs look like in practice? Creating peace means not starting fights over trifles. It is the ability to let go of irritation rather than fanning it into a fire. It is being a person whose presence soothes, not agitates. Making the home a place he wants to run to, not run away from. Showing respect means speaking to him the way you speak to a person important to you, not rolling your eyes, not devaluing his opinion in front of children or friends. Respecting his competence, even if you would have done it differently. Expressing appreciation means noticing, saying thank you for the things he does routinely, seeing the labor that stands behind providing and protecting, not considering his contribution an invisible norm. Giving affection means touching him, hugging him, showing physical attraction, and not using sex as a training tool, making him feel like a needed man. Maintaining stability means managing your emotions like an adult, not making your bad days his problem, not expecting him to be your emotional shock absorber 24 hours a day, being a partner one can lean on. None of this is advanced mathematics. It is simply caring about the experience of the other person next to you. Why is this so rare? Some truly don't know. Culture tells us that men have no emotional needs, that they are like robots. Some know, but believe it doesn't matter, that her needs are a priori more important. And some know, but consciously choose not to do it. They have calculated that they can take without giving because where is he going to go? The cost of leaving is too high, the mortgage, the kids. She can parasitize his responsibility. This last category is the most destructive. It is here that men wake up at 50 and realize they spent their lives serving someone who didn't give a damn about them. The tragedy isn't that making a man happy was hard. The tragedy is that it was easy, but the woman simply chose not to do it. If you are watching this and recognize your situation, whether you are the man whose needs are ignored or the woman realizing her own coldness, what should you do? First, awareness. You cannot fix what you do not see. Second, honesty. Look the truth in the eye. What reigns in your home? Peace or chaos? Respect or contempt? Third, responsibility. Accept your share of the blame. Fourth action. Do something differently. If you created a storm, create a calm. If you were silent, say thank you. Men, if you are watching this, your needs are valid. Desiring peace is normal. Desiring respect is not a sign of weakness. Desiring affection does not mean being needy. If you were convinced otherwise, you were lied to. Lied to by culture, lied to by partners who benefit from your patience. You teach people how to treat you. If you accept the role of the invisible man, you will be one. If you require decent treatment, those incapable of giving it will leave, and that is not a loss. That is a cleansing. Women, if you feel a defensive reaction reading this, ask yourself, why? Nothing unreasonable has been said here. When was the last time you sincerely asked what your man needs? Not what you think he needs, but what he actually asks for. If you don't remember, that is an alarming sign. A man who feels seen, respected, and valued becomes the best version of himself. He gives more. He invests more heavily. Meeting his needs is not a loss for you. It is an investment that returns 100-fold. Making a man happy is easy. Peace, respect, appreciation, intimacy, stability. The question is not whether it is possible. The question is whether it is important to you. Relationships die not where it is difficult. They die where one of the two stops caring. You always have a choice. Accept it as it is, try to change it, or leave. But you cannot pretend that it doesn't matter. If you want to change the situation, start today. It is not too late to become the partner your loved one deserves. Making someone happy is simple if you are truly not indifferent to their happiness. Understanding human nature is the only map that helps you not get lost in the labyrinth of relationships. If you are ready to look deeper than the surface and want to know the truth that is often kept silent, welcome. Subscribe to the Psycheria channel. Here, we turn the complex riddles of the psyche into clear answers. See you in the next video.